When there's nothing left to be sought, then what is there left to be sold? When there's nothing to be sought after, there's nothing that one is seeking, then what is left to be sold to you? Now, what I intend to communicate with this saying, right? It's quite subtle. It's very subtle, and it may not really rationally make sense at first, right? Because certainly in this human experience, on this human journey, there are things to be sought after. There's the continuing tendency to seek to acquire things, and it's necessary for the continuation of our existence, right? Obviously, we need to acquire food, water, air. That one's not too difficult. There's certain needs that we have, right? And therefore there's an active searching, seeking, a grasping, right? Going after things. And I'm not saying that this is good or bad or right or wrong. I'm just describing the nature of this reality. That's it. Just looking at it realistically. The way that the Buddha looked at reality. The way the Buddha interpreted the nature of this impermanent existence. This transient nature of conditioned things that we experience as visceral, sensory, perceived reality. And the Buddha said that it is this very thirst, or this seeking, or this craving after, that is the root or the nature of suffering. And of course, in Buddhist philosophy, there's no real root or clear beginning to anything. It's just a cycle. It's the cycle of samsara. There's no real beginning to it or end to it, because ultimately time is not a reality the way that we perceive it linearly here. And the Buddha said, great quote by the Buddha, the problem is you think you have time. Because in time, there can be something to attain, right? There's the conditioned nature of reality in the present moment, and then there's a seeking for conditions to change into something that is more desirable, right? To get rid of the unwanted conditions and then to attain that which is wanted. Now, what is the problem with this? Conditions always change. And it's not really within our control completely what these conditions change to. Can we control the weather? No. We might try to. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. There's this little self, this delusion of self. Again, the Buddha taught there is no self. Not even as a soul or an Atman, or not even as consciousness or any idea of what you think you are, who the self is delusion. And so this little self can't control conditions. It can't manipulate reality to get what it wants, what it craves, what it seeks. And that's where the suffering comes from. You can never quite get it. You can never quite grasp it. Because it's like trying to grasp the air. you're never gonna get it. So then what do you do? What do you do? Well, to me, what I feel the solution the Buddha delivered, also what is known as the way of the Tao, the way of truth, the way of the absolute truth, both within and both beyond the conditioned nature of reality. It's the way of effortless being. It's the way of letting go of the constant grasping and seeking. It's the way of still sustaining yourself in this human existence, right? Still taking actions, volitional actions, having intention, having diligence in your aims, yet it is the path of karma yoga. It is the path of non-attachment to the fruits. You're only entitled to the action itself, the action that you choose through your own will and volition to partake in. You are not entitled to the fruits. And this attachment to the fruits keeps you stuck, trapped on this wheel, the cycle of karma, of birth and rebirth. In every moment, birth and rebirth. The old one dies, the new one comes into being, and then you attach yourself, and attaching yourself to the stories and these concepts and ideas of who you are, what you are, where you've been, where you're going to, what you don't want, what you do want. This attachment to the pleasurable, the desirable, and aversion to the painful and the non-desirable. And it keeps you stuck on this wheel, what the Buddha called the wheel of samsara, dukkha, suffering inherent in the impermanent nature of reality. But within that, within dukkha, as the Buddha said, within samsara, is the seed for the cessation of suffering, is the seed for the realization of ultimate truth, for the liberation, the enlightenment, the realization of nirvana. And this can be brought into the reality of conditioned things. This can be realized from within the reality of impermanence and conditioning. It's not something that, it's not something that you achieve or attain at some future point, some ideal moment, or after death, because again, that's all delusion. There is no death as such. There is no birth as such. There's no future as such. And again, I'm not asking you to believe anything I say. I'm asking you to look into it for yourself. Realize the truth for yourself. Because again, the truth is not it's not something that someone can give to you or sell to you. Again, coming full circle back to how I opened this video, when there's nothing left to be sought, there's nothing left to be sold. These spiritual teachers and gurus, they might try to sell you shit. Claim, I'll sell you the truth. I'll sell you freedom from suffering. Of course, because they're in the business. That's their business. It's turned spirituality into an industry. Again, not saying this is good or bad, right or wrong, but then when you're in that role, when you're in that space, what do you have to do? You have to keep creating more and more content. You got to keep creating more and more things to sell to people who are seeking, on the path of seeking. So really, if you are in the business of spirituality, is it your, if you want to stay in business, is it really your highest desire or intention to set people free from seeking? No. You want to keep people on the wheel of seeking because then they keep buying stuff from you. And it's the same thing. Look at the Western world. Look at Western medicine. Look at these industries. Look at the revolving door of Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies and all of this. Do they really want to offer you a permanent solution, the end of seeking, the freedom, enlightenment, the realization of nirvana? No, fuck no, because they got something to tell you. They got something to sell you and to tell you, but a being like the Buddha, for example, he didn't have shit to sell anybody. He wasn't trying to sell anything. He's just like, If you're interested, I can share some insights. But really what he taught through was just his presence. The fact that he had realized the ultimate truth, enlightenment, nirvana. And it emanated through his being. He didn't want anything, because if he did, he's still stuck on that cycle. He hasn't attained it if he's still seeking something. If people are seeking to sell you shit, haven't really attained it. Now this is different than, say for example, you partake in an action for the sheer enjoyment of that action. You play music, or you make food, or you do massage and healing work and body work. Amazing, but you are not seeking to get something from it. That's not to say that you can't you make food and you say, okay, I'm going to sell it for this price, and that's what I'm going to do, but there's no clinging to getting the result. It just happens as a part of the action. You do the action, there's an exchange, okay, but there's no grasping or seeking for it. It's just the natural unfoldment. So I'm not negating the reality of sustaining yourself or making money or living a passion or a purpose. Actually, I think the highest path is that of karma yoga, which is spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the path of consecrated action. It's not the path of just like sitting and contemplating on the ethers and dissolving your self, this human self, into nothingness. No, I don't think that's the highest path, and neither did Krishna speaking to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He said, the highest path, the easiest path, is the path of effortless action, the path of non-attached action. Yes, you can follow Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge and wisdom. You can be the yogi meditating in the cave. Go for it if you feel called to it. But the more practical path is that of karma yoga. So you fully immerse yourself in the action, in that path of deep engagement, deep penetration in the act itself. And you lose yourself in the act, and there is no seeking or craving or desire for a particular outcome. Because the outcome, that belongs to God. What comes of these things that we do, the fruits, belong to the Most High, belong to God, belong to life itself. Does not belong to you. That is the gift that we give to God, so to speak. That is the sacrifice. That is the offering. All the fruits of these acts and these actions are an offering. It's like if you do a charitable act and you're seeking some sort of recognition for it, some praise. Did you really do a charitable act? No, you didn't. You did a selfish act. But if you do it just because that's what your heart feels called to do, and it's just, the satisfaction is inherent in the act itself, and you seek nothing, no praise, nothing. You seek nothing for it. Then you're blessed. You're blessed beyond blessed. You've essentially merged with God. So you offer it all up to the Most High, to life itself. This entire life is an offering. Everything. I am only entitled to engagement in that action. What comes of it is not up to me. I'm not in control of that. But I know if I engage in worthy, noble action, then I am blessed. I am blessed just from the action itself. That's it. So, it's my share for you guys. Appreciate you all. May you be blessed on your path. The path of effortless action. The path of no longer seeking. The path of ultimate freedom. Devotion to a noble and worthy cause. I hope.